Have you ever woken up from a dream and felt incomplete? As if something unfinished followed you back into waking life. Like a whisper still clinging to your consciousness, you try to dismiss it. It was just a dream, you tell yourself. But something inside doesn't believe you. What if that dream wasn't fiction at all? What if it was a signal? A message from a version of you, one not entirely human, yet not fully imaginary either. There's a kind of dream that doesn't fade with the morning light. It lingers. Like a staircase you keep climbing but never reach the top. Like a mirror that shows you someone you don't quite recognize, familiar, but subtly off. Like a voice you swear you've heard before, echoing inside a room you've never entered. These aren't just tricks of sleep. They may be fractures, small leaks between realities. Moments where something deeper tries to surface. Where your perception thins and another you peeks through the cracks. Psychologists once believed dreams were just the brain's way of processing random stimuli, a neurological house cleaning while we rest. But Carl Jung had a different idea. To Jung, dreams were a language, a symbolic system designed by the unconscious to reveal what the conscious mind refuses to see. He spoke of the shadow self, that hidden version of us buried beneath social masks and personal illusions. But what if the shadow isn't buried at all? What if it's awake, somewhere else? The ancient Gnostics believed in layers of reality, some false, some real, all overlapping. They claimed that what we call reality is just a veil, and dreams are sometimes the tearing of that veil, not a fabrication, but a transmission. Have you ever had a dream that felt more real than waking life, a place you'd never been, yet knew your way around? People you'd never met, but loved or feared as if they'd shaped your soul? It may not be a memory from this life. It may not be your memory at all. Maybe it's the residue of your mirror version, the one who made different choices, the one who broke free or fell deeper. And maybe, just maybe, they're trying to reach you. We've always been fascinated by mirrors, not just as objects but as symbols, as mysteries. In ancient Greece, Narcissus fell in love with his own reflection, unable to look away. To him, the mirror wasn't glass, it was seduction, obsession, and doom. But that myth wasn't just about vanity. It was about the danger of confusing image with essence, of mistaking the mask for the soul. The mirror has haunted human consciousness ever since. In literature, we see it in Dostoevsky's The Double, where a man encounters his own doppelganger, a replica who slowly begins to unravel his sanity. In folklore, mirrors are portals, traps, or even prisons for the soul. They don't just reflect light, they reflect identity and sometimes distort it. Psychologically, this obsession has a foundation. French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan proposed the idea of the mirror stage, a moment in early childhood when a baby first recognizes its reflection as self. Before this moment, the infant lives in fragmentation, no clear sense of who or what it is. But upon seeing the reflection, it imagines itself as whole, and that illusion becomes the ego. Think about that. Your sense of identity, your I, may have been born from a reflection, not a discovery but a projection, not truth but interpretation, and yet we build entire lives around that image, protecting it, shaping it, defending it. But what if the mirror lied? Or worse, what if it doesn't? Because sometimes when we stare into the glass, we don't see what we expect. We see someone else, a version of us, slightly off, eyes colder, smile unfamiliar. A flicker of awareness behind the surface that feels foreign, almost predatory. Could it be just a trick of light? Or have we underestimated the mirror throughout? Cultures, mirrors are treated as thresholds, gateways between worlds. In some rituals, they're covered when someone dies, as if to prevent the soul from being trapped or stolen. In others, breaking a mirror is more than bad luck, it's a disruption of balance, an omen of identity fractured. Why such fear? Because on some level, we sense that mirrors don't just reflect who we are, they reveal who we aren't, or worse, who we could be in another reality. And if there's one version of you standing here, watching, there may be another, just as real, watching back, not trapped, not confused, but waiting. The line between symbol and substance begins to blur. Myth becomes psychology. Reflection becomes revelation. And in this merging of ancient fears and modern thought, one question begins to rise. What if the mirror is not a boundary, but a breach, a leak between the worlds, a silent witness to the existence of your mirror? Self just on the other side of the glass? A version not shaped by your choices, but by the ones you never made. You wake up, go to work, message the same people, argue about the same things, repeat the same habits. It all feels linear, cause, effect, consequence. One life, one track. But what if that's an illusion built for psychological stability? What if your experience is just one thread pulled from a woven field of possible usage diverging at the moment of choice? And here's the disturbing part. What if the original isn't you? Physics has entertained that reality might not collapse into a single outcome. In some interpretations, like the many worlds view of quantum mechanics, every decision, every quantum event doesn't resolve, it branches. Not hypothetically, structurally, which means somewhere, the version of you who confessed, who walked away, who never survived, who changed everything exists. Not as fantasy, but as a mathematically permitted neighbor reality, if even a poetic echo of that is true. Then identity becomes less a solid core and more a spread probability wearing a face. Now add another layer, simulation theory. Philosopher Nick Bostrom argued that if technologically advanced civilizations can run ancestors' simulations, hyperreal recreations of conscious beings, then statistically, simulated minds could vastly outnumber biological originals. If so, the odds tilt that we are not the first generation of reality, but a rendering, in which case the branching may not be physics at all, but computation, save states, forks, alternate runs. Your déjà vu might be dropped frames. Your recurring dream, a memory that wasn't meant to load here. Sit with that long enough, and the psychological strain begins. People already report to realization feeling like the world is staged, depthless, scripted. Pair that with the suspicion of unseen versions of the self, and identity starts to diffuse. If there are countless use, does accountability fracture who owns regret? Why do you feel guilt over choices you never made unless somewhere you did? And the emotional signal bleeds across partitions? There's a thought experiment called quantum suicide. In simplified form, imagine a setup where an observer's survival depends on a quantum event. In any branch where they die, they're no longer there to notice. In the branches where they live, experience continues from the first-person perspective. Survival seems guaranteed, though in most branches, you're gone. Applied metaphorically, how many times have you felt like you should have died, should have failed, should have lost everything, yet somehow didn't? In one reading, you're always in the branch where you keep going. In another, you've already died 1,000 subtle deaths, just not here. Now imagine consciousness as networked rather than isolated. Loosely coupled processes across branching. Lines, if those processes occasionally sync, leak, or echo. You might feel emotional residues that don't align with your biography, terror with no event, grief with no cause, or a strange inner certainty. I've lived this before. Maybe you have, just not in this run. And here's the prison. If you are not the original, but simply one active instance among many, the system that contains you sets the rules. Your memories can be curated, your context narrowed, your curiosity